What's your why? Think about this. If you're listening, what is your why? How have those limiting beliefs held you back? And what are you going to do about it? Welcome to the Talking Minds podcast. Life is a journey. My name's Marcus.
My name is Mags, and together we will discuss how the endpoint isn't the destination.
We're going on a journey, Mags. Welcome to the Talking Minds podcast. Maggie, say hello.
Hello.
I have a new co-host on the Talking Mind podcast. Right, we're going to take you on a journey over 10? We're going to do about 10 episodes of this, aren't we? And we thought that we'd start with why. Why are we doing this? Anyway, it is a really good question. Why? It's like the fuzziest thing. So the reason why I like why is many years ago, I found this guy called Simon Sinek. And before I had my breakdown, before kind of my world imploded and the universe started to really kick my ass, which wasn't nice, I remember being in the doctors. And logically, I shouldn't have been there. Logically, I shouldn't have had a breakdown. And what I said was, excuse me for swearing, I said to the doctor, I don't want pills. I don't want to talk about it. I want to know why the fuck do I feel the way that I do, right? And that kind of started me on a mission. So I want to just read a quote. So anybody watching this on YouTube, because we've got a YouTube channel now, so pop over to YouTube. But Simon Sinek said this: regardless of what we do in our lives, our why, our driving purpose, cause, or belief never changes. So I'm going to start with 3 questions. What's your why? Think about this. If you're listening, what is your why? How have those limiting beliefs held you back? And what are you going to do about it? Mags, over to you. What's your why?
Over to me. Well, my why is to make the world a better place, however cliche that sounds. But I think it starts with us. Once we start healing, once we start working on ourselves, we become better human beings by default. And we look at the world differently. And I think instead of looking at it's still a big picture, but instead of looking at I need to fix the world, think about fixing yourself. And then even if you help one other person and that other person helps one other person, there's going to be an effect that will just, affect so many other people in a positive way. And I think the more we heal ourselves, the more we do the inner work, the better the world becomes. And my why really is to excite people about this work, because I haven't been excited about doing inner work until I was forced to do the work, like yourself.
Yeah,
You were,
right.
you were in your rock bottom. I was in my rock bottom. Everyone's rock bottom looks differently, but we somehow need to hit it before we come to this aha moment that why don't I just work on myself and see if I can be better, think better, do better, not have the thoughts that are, the ones that I don't really have, like, is there anything I can do about it? And I personally think now doing this work that we do not need to wait to hit the rock bottom. If we spread the message that it can be exciting, if people know that you can just start today, just like that. You can just make a decision. I want to work on myself and go and do it. You don't need to wait for your rock bottom, in my opinion.
Do you know what? You said something there that I think is really important. I think the reason why most people don't know their why, and I think it's because the why is fuzzy. Because your why really is the impossible dream, isn't it? It's the thing that if you're going to live boldly, you've got to have a why that seems impossible. And because it's impossible, it's kind of fuzzy, which is probably why we concentrate on what we do and how we do it, but we don't really know who we are and why we are. And I would 100% agree. Would you say that most people aren't willing to do the work because you can't know your why until you know yourself, right?
Exactly. You cannot know your why until you start doing the work. That's just a given, because it's blurred, it's clouded, it's you know, you have all those limiting beliefs, exactly like you just said, and those are holding you back. So you can't have a bigger why if you're driven by your limiting beliefs, and if you don't even know your limiting beliefs. So it's like this, you can't expect people to know their purpose, to know their why. I disagree with this. I mean, maybe not fully disagree, but if you asked me about my why 3 years ago, I would have no idea what to tell you.
Mm.
I have no idea what to tell you. I'll probably say something with Muay Thai because I was doing this. So I will be, you know, but this is just for me. It's not the bigger why. It was something for my development, something that, you know, brought me excitement, but it wasn't a bigger why because I wouldn't even see myself as someone that can help others get better. I had to heal certain things within me to even have that thought, not be uncomfortable by this thought of me being of service to other and me actually being able to help on a bigger scale
Mm.
because you
You know,
don't deem yourself worthy.
yeah, that kind of reminds me of, for those of you who don't know, there's a great book called The Chimp Paradox by a guy called Stephen Peters. And so there's like the part of you that is the real you, the one that wants to turn up. And then there's the chimp, and that's your guardian, that's your protector. And that's really where your limiting beliefs come from. But the other thing is the computers. There's a computer that's programming. So all these limiting beliefs, they're not even yours. It's all bullshit. Would you agree, Max? It is. You can't get to your
Yes.
why because you can't get through the chimp. You can't get through the bodyguard who's looking at the computer, and you're just sat there going, "I really want to live an amazing life," but you've got all this shit.
Yeah, and that's the most fascinating thing about limiting beliefs. Once you start looking into them, you realize that majority of them are not even yours, if not all of them. It's just something you either have been conditioned to believe or something that, you know, a lot of us have been through either something traumatic or either something uncomfortable, or people said something to us and then we just took it as a truth, and then we attached a story to it, how this makes us less than, or, you know, because we didn't know those concepts of worthiness coming within ourselves, that we don't need other people to give us validation, but we can give it to ourselves. All those beautiful things come from the process of healing, come from the process of unpacking the limiting beliefs and reframing them to something better. And yeah, I agree. It's completely not ours. The limiting beliefs, it's like we just been fed them throughout our lives without even realizing.
Yeah.
And then we hold on to them subconsciously as well, again, without realizing. So we're not even sure, we're not even aware that we're driven by so many. There were so many. It's not like I had one or two. There was like 50 that I had to get rid of. And some of them super easy to get rid of once you like just realize what they are.
Yeah.
Because
Do you know
you
what?
absolutely.
I was going to say, you picked up on something then that I think that another thing that stops people is that we know that victim to hero journey, right? But one of the things that I've noticed working with clients and working with myself, and I know that you're going to agree with this, is that we often can focus on the big traumas. You know, it might be that you've had something abusive happen, or like in my case, it was when I got assaulted. And it wasn't the assault, but that's what everybody went for. Oh, you must be feeling like that because you got assaulted. And that wasn't, when I unpacked it, that wasn't what it is. And often it's not the big traumas that we need to heal, because actually we can probably logically put those into a box and go, well, actually, that is something that's, the world would say that is a big trauma. It's pretty obvious that if that happened to you, that you
That
would
must be the
feel this
reason.
way,
Yeah.
right? But it's what I
Yeah.
call the little T traumas, the little A abuses, those relationships with family, those relationships with
Yes.
friends, those people who you connect to. And instead of why, what's come to me now, and it's a bit more woo-woo, but it's your sole purpose, why you're here. Would you agree? The why
Yes,
really is
I
your sole
agree.
purpose.
I agree. And I was doing something today and it said, your karma is your dharma. which is
Yeah, right.
basically saying, which is basically saying that, all the bad stuff that happens to you or happened to you, it's there on purpose. It's for you to learn the lesson that you came here to learn so that you can live the life on purpose and fulfill the purpose that you have been assigned even before you came here. Like if you believe in astrology, which I am very new to, but I'm absolutely fascinated how accurate it is to my story and my purpose and everything that happened. I'm like, how do they know and everything. So yes, I think it's all that the purpose that we hear will be drawn from your life experiences.
Yeah.
And usually it comes from the bad stuff because the biggest lessons that we learn come from the bad stuff. If you allow yourself to unpack what hurt you, what brought you pain, if you allow yourself to go there, explore it, express it, you will find the biggest epiphanies, the most truth about yourself.
Yeah.
And you will
And
also accept that it's not you. What happened to you is not you.
I would say one of the best books that I read, and it's just a little part of this book, Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God. I don't know if you've read that book, but
I haven't read it. I heard of
you
it. I
haven't read
haven't
it.
read it.
But he's basically talking to God, and he's asking all these questions. You know, why is all this bad stuff happening? Why is all this happening? And why is all that happening? Which we do, right? Because our mind is, if our mind's there to keep us alive, which it is, it's always going to focus on the negative, even though there is positive things in life, but our monkey mind, our logical mind focuses on that. And this really was an awakening for me. And it digs into what you've just said. And it's, how can you know love if you haven't known loss? How can you know success if you haven't known failure? Right. So it's not necessarily bad. We perceive the feeling as being bad because of our programming rather than it being bad or good. It's just a societal construct that's there to
Yes.
keep us alive. And most people are coming from a place of fear rather than going, okay, that shit, what's the plan? What do we do? What can I do? And stop. And I always tell a story to my clients. It sounds really middle class, this. But you're skiing down a ski slope and you go around the bend and there's a bank of trees in front of you. When I ask this question and I say, what's your plan? They'll go, stop. Why? Well, because I'll hit the trees. And then I say, but if you're focusing on the trees, you'll hit them. Why aren't you focusing on a path through the trees?
On the little, what's in between.
So it's,
I'll
what
just go
can
in
I do
between.
rather than what can't I do?
I'll be like, I'm just gonna go between the trees.
Yeah. But it's focusing on, in this moment, it's shit, it's gone wrong, but we focus on what we can't do rather than focusing on what's the micro move that I can make.
And I think that's also the programming, because no one has taught us that if there's a problem, like even when I first started working, I remember one of my first bosses was, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution. And I was like so annoyed. And I was like, well, there's a problem. I don't know. Like, I want you, but it's because I was never used to that kind of questioning. If there's a problem, we complain about the problem. That's what I was familiar. That's what I grew up hearing and people doing. So, I didn't think outside the box. I had to teach myself. I had to train myself to have that kind of. Now I'm also the person that will tell you, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution, because I know that when there is a problem, there's always a solution. I just need to think hard or just think creatively to find it. The bigger the problem, maybe it's harder to get to the solution, but the solution is always there if you're willing to find it. If you're willing to give up in the first second of the problem appearing, then you're going to only think about the problem, and then you're going to become a victim of your circumstance. But if you open your mind to the possibility of solving whatever it is that is in front of you, you will find the solution, or a creative way to go around the problem. Whatever it is, you will be in a better place before you were.
Yeah.
If you just open your mind. I think that's just applies to so many things in life, not just, work related stuff where I first heard it.
Yeah. And I think this digs into the power of a good coach. And I'm smiling for those people watching this on a podcast. You won't see me smile. I'm smiling because I remember, for any of you who don't know, there's an amazing coach out there called Rich Litvin. An absolute amazing, he is the best in the game. And I can't remember what the question was that I asked Rich once, and I asked him this question, and this is all he said. This is the power of a good coach. He went, Marcus, you're a coach. Somebody came to you with that problem.
What would
What
you
would you
do?
say? I was like, bastard, how dare you do that? He was so right. He was so
You
right.
do it as well. You did this to me many times. You ask me the questions that are just the most annoying.
Yeah.
Immediately when I hear it, I was like, well, I'm asking you. Why are you coming back to me with a question? It's super annoying when you're not used to it. Now I entertain you with this, like I entertain myself, because I know this is for you to open my mind. So I know the reason behind you coming back to me with a question. When there is a need for you to come back to me with an answer, you will do it as well. So that's the trust that we have between each other, because well, we work together and we know the power of coaching, as you just said. But at the beginning, I was definitely very upset when people wouldn't give me what I want. If I ask you a question, I want an answer. I don't want you to ask me a question with which I need to come up with an answer. But that actually is what coaching is about, right? We're not meant to just come and give our clients the answer just there. Here is what
Well,
you
we
need
don't
to
have
do.
it. We don't.
We don't
I
have
haven't
it. You
walked your
know
path.
yourself the
I
best.
can't have your answer, right? And
Yeah.
and I think that this is, if we look at the journey that we're on, we can just go from A to B and follow the route. That's not living. So it's like, do you want to go on a motorway from A to B, or do you want to go on the back roads and then discover that restaurant that you never knew existed and you had the best bowl of pasta ever, or that you took that coast road and found this hidden cove or this beach with dolphins, flying it.
Yeah, the
You never would have had
unexpected
if you'd gone
thing.
off the beaten track.
Yeah, the unexpected things are the ones that we cherish the most anyway, I'd say. So it's nicer to go and find that out yourself than have it handed to you.
Yeah.
And anyway, in coaching, I would say if I give you the answer and you don't like it, you're not gonna accept it because you're not ready. But if you find it out yourself, even if it's the same thing, you're gonna look at it completely different because you will discover it, you will explore it within your mind, and you will know deep down that it is true. But if I'm going to tell you when you're not ready, because we as coaches, most often, many times, we will know the destination the client will arrive at or the answer the client will arrive at. But we also don't want to give it too early because sometimes we're not ready for this answer. We need to like go set and discover some other things before we can accept the harsher truths. Because sometimes we discover a truth that we don't want to know, or we're not ready, and then you're just going to be like completely put off. It's like, oh no, I don't want to do this. This is too much. But if you slowly ease in yourself and just discover a little bit here, a little bit there, then that's why we like nurture it. Our coaching is nourishing, safe space to help you arrive at this uncomfortable many times decision that then you're going to have to do something about, because that's what the inner work is, right? Like we're going to arrive at the decision that we may not like, because the limiting beliefs at the end of the day, we don't like them. If you admit to yourself that, oh, I believe my power is limited, my worthiness is not there where I want it to be, then it's uncomfortable. You need to be honest with yourself and you need to then take some action to change it. So if I wasn't ready for a certain limiting beliefs, I will resist them, which also happened. I have been resisting a lot of things. Worthiness was one of them. I was like resisting for a whole year. Be like, Marissa Peer talks about not being good enough as one of the main three limiting beliefs that everyone in the world has. And I was always like, nah, that's not me. That's not me. It's absolutely not me. Like I have this accomplishment and I'm doing this and then that. So I would find all those evidence against this belief because deep down, probably I knew that this is exactly one of my core limiting beliefs that I need to work around, but I just wasn't ready. So for a year, I resisted this idea until one day I did the RTT with one of her tapes, and it just hit me so hard. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, right. But there's
oh my god, I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
There's
but now I understand.
There's
why it happened.
There's a comedian in the UK called Ramesh Ranganathan, and he was on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, The Diary of the CEO, and it was really funny something he said. He said, the moment I realized that the universe doesn't revolve around me, it was so much fucking easier. And I agree with
But
that.
it's true. It's true. As soon as and the beautiful thing about inner work is that at the end of the day, you're gonna realize that you're here to serve others.
Mm,
Whatever you're gonna do, whatever your purpose is gonna be, it's gonna be in service of others. And that's kind of same as what you just said, or this guy said, that once you realize it's not just your existence is not just for you,
mm.
then it is becoming easier
Can we
because
unpack that? Can we unpack that? Because do you know what? I think that what you've just said is true. However, especially, and I don't like labels, but anybody who go, I'm an empath or I'm this, I think we need to define service, because I think that word service, whether that be from a coaching point of view, whether it be from a religious point of view, has been absolutely used as a weapon to enslave people. A lot of people, the slave trade has not gone. It's just now we're a slave to the market. We're now a slave to governments. We're now slave. We're all batteries in a system. And I think we should unpack what service is, because I think service isn't, which was my belief. And a lot of people who are healers are like this. So people who are healers go, oh, I can't charge that much money. I must give away everything away for
yes,
free.
yes.
And I think we need to, I'd love your thoughts. I'll give my thoughts, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, if you were to define what service is, because like 100, and people talk a lot about that. They talk about what service is, how you do service, but why? Why is service important, and how would you define service so that you feel empowered and that energy moves around? It's an interesting one, this, and it's not taught. We don't delve enough into kind of the definition, or what is your definition of what service is?
Well, I agree that at the beginning, probably of my journey, I did have this limiting belief around service and giving and helping, and that, you know, we shouldn't be charging if it's just helping others, because there is this programming that we've been giving that if it's of service to others, then it should be for free because you're just helping. But if you look in the world, and you know, look at different businesses around the world, everything is based on service, one way or the other. I am helping you with something, so this is service. So if you just look at this as an exchange of
Energy.
well, service, me energy, exactly, me helping you with a problem that you have. So even if you look at it, I think probably in my world, looking from a perspective of a coach, I would see my service as me helping you with a problem that you have, or with the whatever it is that you need solving, or whatever it is that I would say that I can guide you or help you. This is my service to you. So for me, it's unpacking your unleashing your true potential, really. That's what I am most focused on, because I know that once you do inner work, once you start working on yourself, you will be excited about actually reaching your full potential. So my ultimate goal is help you unleash your true potential. But to be there, you first need to do certain steps. Before you can even deem yourself worthy to actually step into your power and do those things. So service in that way, to me, is just exchange of energy, exchange of the gifts. So my gift is to see where you're struggling, what do you need to kind of like bring awareness to, and I can guide you to get there. And now I also understand, because I did my work and I've used mentors and I've used coaches myself, and that helped me overcome my limiting belief around not having money, not receiving money for services of coaching. Because only once I paid and started actually investing in mentoring and coaching, I saw 100%. The biggest changes. 100%. So this exchange of money had to happen for me to even give myself permission to actually invest and go all in. Because until I've done it, until I've done things for free, it was still all like, oh, I'm dabbling here, you know, doing a little bit, but I'm actually not making any progress. And there's a lot of talk about this as well, that until you put your skin in the game, so you invest the money, and they even recommend that you pay upfront for anything that you want to do, any coaching agreement or any course. It's best to pay upfront rather than installments, because the bigger amount of money you invest, the higher your commitment.
Yeah, you're gonna, and this, I would have reflect that exactly. When I first started, it was, oh, I'm not worthy of doing this, and I've literally just put my prices up, and it's one of those things that you've got to sit into your own value. But let me ask you a question, because I'd be really interested on your take on this. So if we were going to look at that service, and we were going to look for, let's look at it negatively first, even though I've got a Netflix subscription, right? People will pay $9.99, pay whatever they want for their Netflix subscription. They'll go to the shops and they'll pay for their food, right? There's an energy change of money in there, right? Tangible stuff. You go to the dentist, you pay for your dentist. Even if you were going to go to the doctors, in the UK, it's different because we got the NHS. So I'm going to pull that out of the way. But we know that you've got to pay for those services. So even in the NHS, we pay for it through our taxes. So we don't pay for it straight away. Why do you think it is that we pay for stuff? So when we're looking at limiting beliefs, right, we are more than happy to exchange our energy, money, for stuff that doesn't serve us, shit food, Netflix. I'm not going to get preachy on this, but why is it we don't do that for knowledge and information to empower ourselves to break free of the matrix?
Because we're not used to, because it's not a common thing, because no one taught us to do it, because it wasn't common when we were growing up. So it's just another conditioning and programming that we've been used to. If I grew up in a society or in an environment that people would gladly have coaches and mentors, I would be like that, investing the money in me and in my development. But I haven't grown up in that kind of environment. I grew up spending money on booze, spending money on things to distract myself, spending money on things that now I know were just a distraction, which, consumerism, like we could talk about it a lot, but it's
we've been hypnotized.
On us. Exactly. And we just followed because we didn't know any better. But now we can, if we want to. It's very easy to find out other options that we have in today's world. So we really live in a very good era, because we have access to all the information that we need. And instead of being upset that we spent so many years on doing things that we shouldn't have, or we didn't have to, or it's okay, just accept it. You didn't know any better. This is part of your lesson that you had to learn as well. So I'm all the wiser now because I've made those mistakes, or because I've spent that much money or that much time on doing things that weren't really good for me. I'm not going to do them anymore because I've learned my lesson. So if I haven't done it, if I haven't drank for like 15 years of my life, maybe now I would be tempted to go and explore that world, because there's still a lot of people. There's always going to be still people doing the things that are not good for us. So the world, maybe one day everyone's going to be on this path of awakening, and we're all going to be living in integrity and according to our values, and it's just going to be common. But at the moment, it isn't. So there's always going to be temptation. There's always going to be different people doing different things, but it's up to you to decide what is good for you and what you want to do, and you can educate yourself about it. I think the reason people have trouble investing in themselves is because of the noise that surrounds it. And but then ask yourself who you're asking those questions, because people that haven't done it yet, if you want to invest in a coach, don't ask your friend that never had a coach. Go and ask another coach that had a coach, or someone that actually done it already. Ask their opinion. Don't ask someone that never done it. They're gonna just then come from a place of what they know. Even if they want the best for you, they can still give you not a great advice for you, because they haven't walked that path yet. So whatever it is that you want to do in your life, 100%. Go ask the person that have already done it. They will give you the honest advice because they have tried it. So if they worked with a coach that they didn't like, they will tell you. but then they will tell you, just make sure you do the research. So jump on a call, discovery call, find out how they are, so you know you're vibing, for example.
Yeah.
But they're not going to tell you don't invest in a coach because it's not good for you.
One
But
of
a
the
person
tips,
who's never had a coach may say that.
I was gonna say one of the tips that I would say is, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a coach, whatever it is you're working on, I always give this tip. You want to be working with some, there's loads of coaches out there, therapists, doctors, it doesn't matter who it is. There's loads of people out there that have lots of information. They're really good at regurgitating information. They've done courses and they've regurgitated the information. The question that I would always ask any coach, my number one question is, before I make my decision to come and work with you, what are you working on at the moment? And how many coaches have you got? Because if your coach, your doctor, your therapist, your mechanic, who is their mentor, they don't need to tell you the name, clearly, but are they still doing the work? I can say, and I know you are, we are, because the work is never done. We know that it goes through cycles of you think you know it, and then all of a sudden something happens and you fucking
no, there's just going to be other things that you want to, but that's exciting. That's not to put off anyone on doing this. It's just exciting and fascinating, because to me, I like to compare inner work or any sort of personal development to a game. Like, you know, we used to play like in the 90s. I'm talking, because when I played games, computer games, it was in the 90s, so a long time ago. But then you know, you would have those bosses that you have to, you know, go to another level, and they were always very difficult, but you weren't scared of them. You were excited to, you know, go and fight that boss so you can go to another level. I see personal development this is the same kind of way.
Yes.
I need to finish this level before I can go to another one. So at some point I'm going to face the obstacle, like that boss, that's going to make me really level up and face some stronger, you know, things, overcome some things before I can come to another level.
Yeah, and
but
that's what Ken Wilber talks a lot about, that integral theory in the fact there's different levels of access to consciousness. Where the actual end goal is consciousness. And if nobody knows about that, you won't, because unless you've experienced it, it's something you can't learn.
Yes.
And that is when you can access that, and you go through those levels and you unpack all of this stuff. And just going back to that coaching thing, I can't remember who it was. I can't remember what artist it was. You'll know the story, but there's this famous artist who's sketching a sketch on a piece of paper.
It was Picasso, I think.
Picasso, yeah, that was it. Yeah. And he throws it away, and the person asks, "Can I have it?" And he says it's whatever, it was 30,000 euros or something. It wouldn't have been euros, whatever it was. And he said, "Well, 30,000 euros. It took you 10 seconds to draw that, and then you threw it away." And it was like, well, yeah, it might have taken me 10 seconds, but it's taken me a whole lifetime to be able to get to that point. And that's what we don't take into account, because we as people we're narcissists. We're all narcissists. We're born as narcissists, because babies expect that they will be given everything, and when we don't, we go, oh fuck. And so it's like we have to grow up, right? And that wound is not us as adults. That wound is us as children. So you've got to do that inner child work. You've got to understand that the way in which you're thinking, feeling, and acting is not as you as an adult. And watch this. Another tip for people who are out there: if you've got somebody who loses their shit, say it's a bad boss, or say it's a family member, right? Change your perspective and go, that's not them as an adult. It's their inner child that feels scared. Would you agree?
Always the inner child. Like, yeah. We know now, because we're familiar with the inner child, even the concept, which a few years ago I wasn't even aware of that concept. But then I understood a lot of things on what I did or other people around me did, and you know, the world made way more sense. But I think we're gonna have another chat on inner child and all that, because it's a big topic anyway.
It is.
But I think it's good to remember as well, what we're doing is we're reaching levels of consciousness. And it's also, I think, important to know that we can't just jump to here.
You've got to micro move, right? Micro.
I think that's what a lot of people are doing, and why they are failing, or just getting discouraged with the work and giving up completely, because they expect to be here they see someone and they're like, oh, they're so aware, or they're this and that. So they already want to be here, but they haven't even gone here. So then they're like, oh, it's not for me. Well,
Yeah.
start doing it little bit by bit. And at some point, you're going to feel like you've jumped across few steps, the quantum leaps, right? So you're going to feel like your shifts are much bigger because you're going to reach that certain level that it's going to, feel like you've actually progressed a lot. But depending, I think it's different for everyone, so it's hard to say it's going to take months or years or weeks, because it depends on how much you have to process.
Yeah, we know the process, but we don't know when or why it's going to come across. Let me leave you. I want to leave you. Well, not leave you. I want to ask you this question. This really hit me hard, and it made so much sense. So this was from the amazing Lisa Nichols. And Lisa, I was on a thing with Lisa Nichols, and she said, I asked her this question, and this was her answer, and I loved this. And it actually ties into the way computers work and stuff. So she said this. She said, you've got to go 100% in to get 1% back. You do another 100% in to get 2% back. You go 100% in to get 4% back. So it's a doubles game. Even in finance, they talk about this as a doubles game. So it's a doubles game. And it's perpetual motion. And so it's binary. So it's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. So there is a pivot point where you've got to put more in than you get out. The universe is kind of testing you to make sure, are you ready? You have
There's always going to be a test.
Yeah, you've got to go in the dark.
Another level, be ready to have a test before you jump on that level.
Yeah, because it goes, I've learned this. Okay, have you? You've done your mock exam.
It's annoying, but it always happens. And I'm always upset. And I mean, not anymore. Now I know it's a test for me.
Now you go, oh, fuck, here we go.
Exam time. So many times you're like, oh yeah, I've moved past it. Like I've cleared this belief or this inner child wound, and then something happens and you're like completely.
Really? You think you have you? That's what it looks like. Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I'm like, all of a sudden, suffering so much, and I'm like, haven't I just bloody, sorted that out? I thought I'm healed here. I'm like, no, Maggie, that means you have a little more work there to do.
So you've just done it now. You've done what I do. You go, okay, roll the eyes, right? Lean into it, let it go.
It's playful, but it's an inner child. So we talk about it another time. But anyway, I would say for everyone, whatever you do with the work and whatever you hit, like hitting a place where you feel like you have done no progress, I think that's a normal path of the work as well. You're just gonna come to the point you're like, oh, everything that I've done, it's just it looks like it's for nothing because I just come. But you're just gonna have those days, and maybe that's just an indication that you need to do a little bit more work there. But it doesn't mean that none of those things that you did stuck or brought any progress. It just means that one, you tested, and two, some things take a little bit longer. So
yeah, and I think we should also, this comes back to the power of why. I think this absolutely segues back to the power of why. If something isn't working, why? What is the lesson? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I repeating doing? Why am I repeating doing it that's getting the same result? Because when we look to other people, when we look to courses, when we look to the TV, when we look to these gurus, oh, this is what they're doing and this is how they're doing it. Shit, I'm not getting a result. Why? It's nothing to do with the information. It's the application of the information within your environment. And people forget about that. And I went through this. I went through I got pissed off. I got really pissed off when I looked at all of these people, whether it was Vishen, whether it was Marissa Peer, whether it's Ajit, all those Mindvalley mentors. And I got really pissed off. And I went, it's fucking all right for you. You've got money. You've got this. And I went through this whole kind of period. Victim period, right? But because I'd done the work, I knew it. What is it I'm doing? How am I doing it? It seems fine. Wait a minute. Why is this happening? And it clicked. And the one thing that we don't talk about is our environment, whether that be an environment in our mind, whether it be, I remember when I jumped on CLC with Mindvalley, I remember speaking to the guy. I've made my mind up, didn't have the money really. And he started telling me about the course. I said, I'm not interested. And he was like, what? I said, not interested. I don't even want to know what the course content is. What I know is that when I started my journey with Mindvalley, when I broke, and that's how I found Marissa Peer and then went on that journey, I basically said to myself, I need to get back into an environment where I'm vibrating around people who, so I didn't do it for the course content. I literally did it to be around people who are on the journey. Little would I know from doing CLC, from going on there. Now I'm a chief life officer with Mindvalley. That was never even my expectation. You know, I on calls now directly with Vishen and Ajit. So I'm getting that opportunity,
Amazing.
you know, to learn directly from those guys. And what's been so important to me is to see that when they speak, you can still see that they're doing the work. There's still stuff going wrong. And it's so empowering to go, these people that you see them all shiny on Mindvalley and you see all the stuff that they're doing, but they're just humans.
Exactly. And then you're focusing on this. You are the one that's putting them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
They're not the ones.
How do we start the journey? Because this is a 10 series podcast. So let's leave this with maybe a couple of tips on how can people start their journey. So I'll go first. Let me have a think about this in regards to a tip. I think my biggest tip. Do you know what? I'm gonna steal 3 tips from Vishen Lakhiani because I think that this is something to ponder on. 3 questions to ask yourself. So get a pen and piece of paper. Pause the podcast at this point because these are 3 important questions that you can ask yourself in how you can start your journey. The first one: what do I want to experience in my life and why? Always end it with why. How do you want to grow in your life and why? And this is the biggie. This is the real why. How do you want to contribute in the world and why? And I think those 3 questions are really powerful because we tend to look at the outside thing of, you know, money, success, and fame. But why do you want that? Why do you want money? Why do you want success? How does that do a bigger cause that actually benefits humanity? So yeah, that's what I would do before you even start your journey. Before you program your sat nav on your journey, think of those as 3 satellites. So the 3 satellites that are going to go, this is where I am right now. And then ask yourself those questions on where do you want to navigate to on your journey rather than navigating on somebody else's. What do you think? What would you?
Yeah, I would say that's absolutely the 3 most important questions that Vishen calls them. I think they're very, very good place to start because they will give you clarity or they will give you get you closer to some
get your brain thinking, right?
Yeah, and get your brain thinking. So the only thing I would add, just be curious. I think curiosity is your best friend in when you start embarking on this journey, and just come from a place of curiosity with anything that you discover, anything that you want to explore, and non-judgment is also a big one. So if you just remember those 2 with anything that you're coming across, I think you're going to be doing really well.
And we already have the answers. All the answers that we need are already inside
within us. Yes.
It's just unlocking that. And that's the frustration because we've got to take responsibility for our own journey, right? We're not children. We've got to take that responsibility. And this is why we're calling this podcast The Journey, because we've given the overture to the opera that will be the next 10 series.
And we also need to be vulnerable, but that's going to be our next episode.
Yes.
So definitely. We can talk about this more next time we see each other.
Yeah. So we're going to be stepping into vulnerability. Oh, scary. Stepping into vulnerability. So what I would say is this is the start of the journey. Episode 1. This is the start of the journey. And we'd love to invite you to come along on this journey with us. So if you're listening to this on your podcast, please subscribe and please share this with others. Be service of others and bring other people on this journey. We've got a minibus. So not a minibus, we've got a coach. And we can make it bigger. So come on this journey.
As many as needed.
Because the power of everybody going on the journey together is going to be better. So if you're watching on YouTube, click and subscribe. We'd love your comments. So please do that. You can also follow us on Instagram. We're both on Instagram more than anywhere else. We're all over the place. So I'm at Marcus A. Matthews on Instagram. You're at Thrive with Mags, right?
Drive with Megs,
It
yes.
says there. For those of you who are watching this on a podcast, you won't see it, but it actually says it on Maggie's thing.
Yeah.
So, Mags, amazing. I really, really enjoyed this first episode. I hope everybody else did. And it's given them a bit of an appetizer into what we're going to be doing. So
about to uncover later down the line.
Yeah. So
join us. All right, I'll see you next
join
time.
us on the journey, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Talking Minds podcast.